The Unforgettable Disappearance of Merrisa Beak, Ruidoso, New Mexico, 2002. On a quiet September evening in 2002, 22-year-old Merrisa Beak walked out of a family-owned diner in the mountain town of Ruidoso, New Mexico, and was never seen again. Her wallet was still in her purse. Her car was untouched. The only thing missing was Merrisa. Nestled high in the Sierra Blanca mountain range, Ruidoso is a place more known for ski slopes and pine-covered vistas than criminal investigations. It's the kind of town where people don't lock their doors, and the night falls with sort of serene finality. But in the fall of 2002, that peace was fractured and never truly restored. Before we begin, I want to let you know that due to the limited visual materials and the age of this case, there isn't much existing footage or imagery to support the story you're about to hear. As a result, this episode will feature a single image background throughout. Think of this as more of an immersive audio experience, a storytelling session that lets your imagination fill in the gaps. Now's the perfect time to grab your headphones, maybe even some popcorn, and settle in. Merrisa Beak was a local, born and raised in Ruidoso. She was well known within the community. Her father, Richard Beck, worked as a maintenance worker at the Ruidoso Downs racetrack, and her mother, Jean, taught third grade at White Mountain Elementary. Merrisa had recently moved back home after completing a 2-year associate's degree in early childhood development at Central New Mexico Community College. Her plan, according to her parents, was to save money, substitute teach, and eventually enroll at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. She was by all accounts a responsible and gentle person, quiet but warm, with a sharp wit that often caught people off guard. Her friends describe her as someone who never made a fuss and always stayed just under the radar. She didn't go out drinking, didn't party much, and didn't date often. She preferred reading, long walks near the Rio Ruidoso, and volunteering at the public library. At the time of her disappearance, Merrisa had been working part-time at Pinecone Cafe, a rustic little diner located off Sutter Drive near Midtown. It was one of those places where the tables were always sticky, the coffee always hot, and the locals always knew your name. Merrisa usually worked the evening shifts for 9, serving mostly regulars and the occasional tourist passing through. September 12, 2002. It was a Thursday. Weather records show a clear sky with temperatures dipping into the low 50s after sundown. Merrisa had worked a routine shift that evening. According to both the diner's owner, Sandra Bell, and the cook, Elias Red Mendoza, there was nothing out of the ordinary. No strange customers. No disputes. Nothing that raised any alarms. She clocked out at exactly 9:07 p.m. Surveillance footage from the security camera mounted behind the register, a grainy VHS system, shows Merrisa walking out the front entrance wearing a light denim jacket, jeans, and white sneakers. She waved briefly to someone inside and then disappeared out of frame. That was the last confirmed sighting of her. Her car, a 1997 silver Honda Civic, was found parked 3 spaces from the entrance. Driver's side unlocked, keys in her jacket pocket, later recovered from the diner's lost and found. Her purse was still slung under the back counter where she had stored it during the shift. Her cell phone, an old Nokia flip phone, was also in the purse. No calls, no messages, no outgoing texts. When Merrisa failed to return home that night, her parents initially assumed she'd gone to a friend's house or maybe decided to take a late walk, something she occasionally did to decompress. But by morning, when she hadn't come home or contacted anyone, Jean Beck called the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department to file a missing persons report. Case file 02-317-057. Designation: Beck Merrisa, active, endangered adult. Deputy Alan Richter was the first to respond. According to the report, there were no immediate signs of struggle, no signs of forced entry to her vehicle, no blood, no footprints leading into the nearby brush. Dogs were brought in by the afternoon of the 13th, but the scent trail went cold within 50 yards of the diner's rear alley. It was as if she had vanished into the mountain air. The town quickly mobilized. Flyers were posted along lamp poles, gas stations, and even on the sides of passing logging trucks. Local news outlets ran her photo nightly for the first week. Search and rescue teams combed the nearby forested areas, Alto Lake, the canyon trails, an old service road that ran behind the diner. But there was nothing. No shoe, no shred of fabric, not a single trace that could point to where Merrisa had gone. By the end of September, the case had begun to stall. Theories started to spread, some wild, some disturbingly plausible. Locals whispered about drifters or truckers passing through town. Others speculated about someone Merrisa may have known, a hidden relationship, perhaps. But no one could point to any credible lead. One chilling detail emerged about a week into the investigation. A gas station security camera, located 2 miles east of the diner, recorded what appeared to be a woman matching Merrisa's build walking along Highway 70 at approximately 9:48 p.m. The footage was blurry, and the woman's face was obscured by glare and shadow, but the clothing was similar: a light denim jacket, jeans, white shoes. However, investigators could never confirm with certainty that it was Merrisa. The video quality was too poor, and no additional footage ever surfaced. Investigators from the New Mexico state police joined the case in early October. Agent Denise Callahan, a seasoned investigator specializing in missing persons, was assigned to assist Lincoln County in reviewing the evidence. In her notes, later partially released under a Freedom of Information Act request, she described the case as troubling in its simplicity: no physical evidence, no strong suspects, no clear motive. Despite the lack of leads, a few details continue to haunt law enforcement. The route Merrisa would have taken to get home was only a 7-minute drive. She didn't appear distressed or hurried when she left the diner. No credible sightings of her ever surfaced after that possible gas station clip. And perhaps most eerie of all, her bank account, email, and phone records remain completely untouched from the moment she walked out of that door. Jean and Richard Beck held a candlelight vigil every year on the anniversary of her disappearance. The first few years drew dozens from the community, but as time passed, fewer people came. By 2010, it was often just them, a few close friends, and a folding table with Merrisa's photo propped up between 2 flickering candles. In 2014, Jean passed away from a brief illness. Richard still lives in Ruidoso. Now and then, someone will bring up Merrisa's name in passing, usually with a quiet reverence, as though afraid to disturb something sacred or fragile. Her photo still hangs in the post office on a faded missing poster, now yellowed around the edges. There's a stillness to her case that unsettles many, not because of what was found, but because of what wasn't. There were no final words, no apparent enemy, no note, no signal flare, just an ordinary young woman walking out of work into the mountain night in silence. And to this day, no one knows where Merrisa Beck went. No trace, no answers, no closure. September 12, 2002, started like any other day in the small mountain town of Ruidoso, New Mexico. The air was crisp, the skies clear, and there was nothing to suggest that by sundown, one of its residents would disappear without a trace. 7:15 a.m., the morning routine. Merrisa Beck, 22, woke early that Thursday morning. According to her father, Richard Beck, she made coffee for the two of them and sat at the kitchen table flipping through the Ruidoso news. She had planned to drop by the public library around noon to return a few books and then head to her shift at Pinecone Cafe by 4 p.m. She was in good spirits, Richard later told investigators. Talked about looking into substitute teaching again. Said she might apply the following week. Her mother, Jean, had already left for her job at White Mountain Elementary. Merrisa, as was her habit, left a note on the fridge. Library, then cafe. Back by 9:30. Love you. 11:56 a.m. library visit. At 11:56 a.m., Merrisa was seen entering the Ruidoso Public Library on video surveillance. She dropped off 2 books, the bell jar and a worn paperback copy of Desert Solitaire, and spent approximately 20 minutes browsing the nonfiction section. Librarian Dana Wells recalled a brief, friendly exchange but noted nothing out of the ordinary. She was her usual self, polite, soft-spoken. She asked if the new local history books had come in. I told her next week. At 12:28 p.m., she exited the building. This is the last clear footage of her during daylight hours. 1:15 p.m. at home. Neighbors reported seeing Merrisa back at her house sometime after 1 p.m. Her car, a 1997 silver Honda Civic, was parked in the driveway. She reportedly brought in the mail, let the cat out, and changed clothes. A receipt found in her room showed she had purchased a sandwich and a bottle of water from a nearby deli around 1:45 p.m. Her shift at the cafe wasn't scheduled until 4 p.m. In the hours between, it's believed Merrisa stayed home. Her phone records show no calls made or received during this period. Internet history on the family desktop computer indicates she looked up substitute teaching listings for the Ruidoso Municipal School District between 2:13 and 2:41 p.m. 3:35 p.m., driving to work. A passing neighbor, Kelly Ruiz, saw Merrisa getting into her Civic around 3:35 p.m. She waved as she pulled out. Nothing unusual, Ruiz recalled. Just a normal Thursday. The drive from her house on Loma Vista Drive to Pinecone Cafe, located near Midtown off Sutter, would have taken about 7 minutes. 3:43 p.m., arrival at Pinecone Cafe. Merrisa arrived at work at 3:43 p.m. The cafe's old surveillance system, an analog VHS setup, captured her walking into the rear employee entrance. She was wearing a light denim jacket, fitted jeans, and white canvas sneakers. Her shoulder-length, dark blonde hair was pulled into a low ponytail. She was carrying a reusable grocery bag, her work shoes, and a paperback book. She changed into her cafe uniform, stored her purse and phone under the back counter as usual, and began her shift promptly at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. to 9:07 p.m., the shift. According to owner Sandra Bell and line cook Elias Red Mendoza, the evening shift was slow and uneventful. 3 regular customers remembered seeing Merrisa serving tables with her usual calm demeanor. No complaints, no issues. She was seen smiling, chatting briefly with a couple from out of town, and clearing plates without incident. She didn't seem distracted or upset, Sandra Bell later stated in her interview. If something was wrong, she didn't show it. The cafe surveillance camera captured her checking out at 9:07 p.m. She waved to Elias, exited to the front entrance, and disappeared from view. 9:10 p.m., the missing 3 minutes. What happened in the minutes after she walked out the door remains the heart of the mystery. Her car was still in the lot, parked in the third space in the front door, driver's side facing outward. The keys weren't in the ignition, nor her purse. They were later discovered in the cafe's loft and found but a few days after the disappearance. Inside the pocket of the denim jacket, she had removed before starting her shift. Her purse, containing her ID, phone, and $28 in cash, was untouched. It remained under the back counter where she had left it earlier. 9:48 p.m. blurry footage, blurred facts. A critical, though ultimately inconclusive, detail emerged from a nearby Shell gas station approximately 2 miles east of the cafe. Security footage captured a young woman resembling Merrisa walking along the northbound shoulder of Highway 70. The timestamp read 9:48 p.m. The woman wore jeans and a light jacket and had a similar gait and build. However, the footage was grainy, and the glare from passing headlights made facial identification impossible. The angle was poor, and no one could confirm definitively whether the woman in the footage was Merrisa. This would be the last potential sighting. 10:45 p.m., concern sets in. Back at home, Richard Beck began to worry. She always came home by 9:30, he said. If she were to be late, she'd leave a note or call. But nothing. By 11:15 p.m., with no sign of Merrisa, he called the diner. Sandra Bell confirmed she had left nearly 2 hours earlier. Alarmed, Richard and Jean drove her usual route home, checked the roadsides, and stopped by the diner parking lot. Her car was still there, locked, with no sign of her. That night, they called 911. 12:06 a.m., initial law enforcement response. Deputy Alan Richter from the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department responded to the scene. His initial report noted the car was secure, with no signs of forced entry or struggle. A preliminary sweep of the area was conducted with flashlights, but nothing was found. By early morning, Merrisa Beck was officially classified as a missing person, category, endangered adult. Case file 02-317-057. September 13th to 16th, the search expands. The search began in earnest the following day. K-9 units were brought in by mid-morning. The dogs picked up a scent near the dumpster behind the cafe, but lost it approximately 40 yards into the back alley that leads to a forested drainage channel. Search and rescue teams, comprised of local volunteers, park rangers, and sheriff's deputies, comb the nearby area. They focus on Alto Lake, Wingfield Park, and an abandoned utility road often used by hikers. Helicopter sweeps were conducted using infrared sensors, but nothing substantial turned up. Jean Beck, visibly shaken during a press briefing on the 14th, begged for information. Please, if anyone saw her or knows anything, please come forward. Merrisa doesn't just leave. She would have told someone. Despite flyers, news coverage, and community-led efforts, no credible leads emerged. Media attention and theories began. Local and regional media quickly picked up the story. By September 15th, headlines like "Small Town in Shock Over Young Woman's Disappearance" circulated across the Southwest. Radio shows and early internet forums buzzed with speculation. Several theories began to form. Voluntary disappearance. Some believed she left of her own volition, perhaps overwhelmed by something no one saw coming. But there were no financial withdrawals, no calls, no signs of planning. Her passport was still in her room. Wrong place, wrong time. Others suspected she may have encountered someone, perhaps a drifter or transit, while walking to her car or taking a shortcut. Yet no one saw or heard anything suspicious. The boyfriend theory. Rumors swirled about a possible secret boyfriend from her college days in Albuquerque. However, investigators found no evidence of ongoing contact with any significant other. Red Herring 1, the hitchhiker lead. On September 18th, a truck driver from Arizona reported picking up a hitchhiker near Alamogordo, a town 50 miles away, who resembled Merrisa. She reportedly said her name was Mel and seemed nervous, possibly under the influence. Investigators reviewed footage from a gas station and rest stop, but none matched Merrisa. The lead fizzled after no further sightings could be confirmed. Red Herring 2, the unnamed caller. On September 23rd, a call came into the sheriff's department from a payphone outside a grocery store in Roswell, New Mexico. The caller claimed to know where Merrisa was and said she'd been taken by someone she trusted. When authorities traced the call and reviewed footage, they discovered it was placed by a local teenager known for making prank calls. He was interviewed and later fined, but the delay wasted valuable resources and time. A case that stalled. By early October, Agent Denise Callahan from the New Mexico State Police Missing Persons Unit was brought in. Her notes described the case as strikingly clean, devoid of the usual evidence trail. No DNA, no witnesses, no physical struggle. It's like she vaporized, she wrote. Family and friends grew increasingly frustrated. Merrisa's best friend, Claire Morrison, gave a tearful interview to a local news outlet. She never just walked away. She wasn't that kind of person. I don't care what people say. Something happened to her. Somebody knows. Despite numerous interviews, door-to-door canvassing, and statewide bulletins, the investigation began to lose momentum slowly. And as winter approached the mountains, so too did the cold. When Merrisa Beck stepped out of the Pinecone Cafe on the night of September 12, 2002, she vanished without a trace. 2 decades later, the case remains unsolved. No suspects, no concrete leads, only silence, unanswered questions, and a hollow space where a vibrant young woman once stood. This is a phase of a case where time doesn't just pass. It corrodes. Memories blur, theories multiply, hopes flicker. But sometimes, amid the fog of speculation, a few threads begin to take shape. In this final installment, we walk through the most credible theories considered by investigators and locals alike. Each theory is grounded in available evidence, with a haunting lack thereof. Theory 1, abduction by a familiar face. She would have fought back. That's what her father, Richard Beck, said during a local television interview in 2003. Unless it was someone she trusted. That's what keeps me up at night. This theory was one of the first that the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department explored, that Merrisa was abducted, but not by a stranger. Instead, someone she knew may have coerced her, lured her into a car, or ambushed her just outside of view. Let's look at the supporting elements. No signs of a struggle were found in the Pinecone Cafe parking lot. Her car was undisturbed, and her phone and wallet were untouched. The scent trail picked up by the K-9 units ended abruptly behind the cafe, near a small service alley that led to an unlit path behind the property. One plausible interpretation: Merrisa willingly got into a vehicle waiting nearby. The timing also supports this. If she left the cafe at 9:07 p.m. and the potential sighting on Highway 70 occurred at 9:48 p.m., there's a 40-minute window, enough time to be driven elsewhere or to vanish. Investigators reviewed Merrisa's phone and email records, searched her journals, and spoke to former classmates and co-workers. One name, in particular, stood out: Troy Landon, an older co-worker she had briefly dated the previous year. The relationship ended amicably, but Troy had recently returned to Ruidoso after spending a year in Flagstaff, Arizona. He was questioned in October 2002. He admitted to having seen Merrisa briefly outside the cafe 2 weeks before she disappeared, but denied any contact since. His alibi checked out. He was working a night shift in Capitan, 30 minutes away. His phone records confirmed he hadn't been near Ruidoso that night. Still, some locals weren't convinced. A bartender at the Hideaway claimed Troy seemed off after the disappearance. Nervous, paranoid, jumpy. But hearsay wasn't enough for a warrant. If this was an abduction, then it was one done with surgical precision. No cameras, no witnesses, no physical evidence. Just silence. Theory 2, a voluntary disappearance. On paper, Merrisa had little reason to run. No known history of mental health issues. No financial trouble. No troubled relationships. But sometimes, the strongest facades hide quiet cracks. This theory, though painful for family, was floated early on by investigators and local media alike. Could she have walked away, started a new life? Some pieces fit. Merrisa had no digital footprint post-disappearance. No online activity, no banking transactions, no contact with anyone. She had recently shown signs of discontent, according to her best friend Claire. She didn't hate Ruidoso, Claire said, but sometimes she talked like the walls were closing in. She wanted to move somewhere bigger. She had also applied to a substitute teaching program in Santa Fe just a month prior, but never followed up. Was that a quiet test balloon for a fresh start? One specific detail raised eyebrows: her library checkout history. In the weeks before she vanished, Merrisa borrowed several books on hiking in the Southwest, wilderness survival, and vanishing without a trace, including the controversial book, How to Disappear Without a Trace by Doug Richmond. Her parents insisted it meant nothing. She read everything. Jean Beck said that's who she was, curious about everything. Still, the idea lingered. Ruidoso is surrounded by vast forests, abandoned mining roads, and cabins. If she had meticulously planned to disappear, the terrain would have provided countless hiding places, at least temporarily. But for most investigators, the theory faltered under its weight. She left behind her phone, her ID, and her money. Not even a backpack was missing from her home. And perhaps most damning of all, Merrisa left her cat locket behind, unfed, untouched. Those who knew her best believe that alone disproves this theory. Theory 3, a tragic accident in the wild. The Lincoln National Forest stretches for miles in every direction beyond Ruidoso. Steep trails, old logging roads, ravines and washes that can swallow sound, light, and people. Could Merrisa have wandered off that night and succumbed to the elements? Search and rescue team conducted extensive grid searches in the immediate days following her disappearance. But no trace, no. Clothing, no jewelry, no remains was ever found. Retired game warden Mitch Hanley believes this theory has merit. People think if someone dies out there, they'll be found. But that's not always true, he said. We've lost hikers before. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes never. An anonymous tip submitted in 2004 further fueled this idea. A hunter claimed to have found a white canvas shoe buried under brush near Buck Mountain, about 9 miles north of town. Authorities investigated. A single shoe was found, weathered but intact, roughly matching the description. But no DNA could be recovered. Was it hers? Was it planted? Or did it belong to someone else entirely? The accidental death theory has always remained a fallback explanation, a tragic end in an unforgiving wilderness. But like the others, it lacks a crucial ingredient: evidence. Theory 4, the supernatural angle. Every town has its legends. Ruidoso is no different. Some locals pointed the area's deep indigenous history: Apache sacred lands, ancient burial grounds, and local tales of the Watchers, shadowy figures said to inhabit the mountains, taking those who wandered too far alone. Another theory floated online suggested Merrisa may have experienced dissociative fugue, a rare psychological condition triggered by trauma or stress, leading to sudden travel or wandering with partial memory loss. Under this theory, she may have walked off into the woods, unaware of her true identity. Then there were the fringe theories: alien abduction, government experiments, or slips into parallel dimensions. These were dismissed mainly by investigators and never gained serious traction. Still, they linger in YouTube comment sections and obscure Reddit threads like whispers in the dark, in the words of Detective Linda Ferris, who joined the case in 2013. Every time you think you've ruled something out, you realize nothing's truly off the table. Timeline review, a window into nowhere. Let's revisit the day of her disappearance. 11:56 a.m., seen at Ruidoso Public Library. 12:28 p.m., leaves library. 1:15 p.m., neighbor sees her arrive home. 3:35 p.m., leaves house for work. 3:43 p.m., arrives at Pinecone Cafe. 4 p.m. to 9:07 p.m., works shift, leaves the front entrance. 9:48 p.m., potential sighting on Highway 70. These timestamps are all verified, but what happened between 9:07 and 9:48 p.m. remains a void. The only confirmed anomaly is her car being found locked, with her keys later discovered inside her jacket. Still at the cafe, why didn't she take her jacket? Why leave her phone and purse? Did she expect a return? And if that woman seen on Highway 70 was Merrisa, where was she going? Lingering questions. Why was her scent lost so quickly? Trained dogs are remarkably effective. The sudden trail termination suggests she entered a vehicle, but no tire marks, no surveillance, no witnesses. What about the cat? It may seem trivial, but pet owners, especially single adults living with a pet, rarely leave without provisions or plans. Was a shoe found in 2004 hers? The shoe was never conclusively tied to Merrisa, yet it closely resembled the kind she wore. Without DNA, it remains a cold clue. Why the silence? In 20 years, no credible ransom, no suspicious confessions, no concrete tips, not even false leads, just rumors and dead ends. The legacy of the missing. Merrisa Beck's case remains active in the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, NAMA's #10574NM, and a $15,000 reward, raised by family, friends, and a local donor, still stands for information leading to her whereabouts. Her parents moved away from Ruidoso in 2011. The house on Loma Vista Drive was sold to a new family. But every September, someone leaves a bouquet of white lilies near the rear entrance of the Pinecone Cave A, where she was last seen alive. A haunting tribute, a silent vigil. Sometimes, a missing person case feels like a jigsaw puzzle with missing corner pieces. No matter how many parts fit, the picture will never be complete. With Merrisa Beck, the absence of evidence is not just frustrating, it's chilling. It suggests that whatever happened to her was intentional, controlled, calculated. In a town where people are known by name and secrets of shallow graves, the disappearance of one woman continues to gnaw at the edges of local memory like an unfinished story. And perhaps that's the scariest part of all. What do you think happened to Merrisa Beck? Was it a tragic accident or something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for more content relating to horrors and missing cases.